Welcome back, everyone, to another Quick Thoughts mock draft on a Friday. I'm going to try to do mock draft Mondays, at least through part of the off season. But today's a Friday, and I thought it would be a good one to put out because I want to make a mock draft before this last week 18 comes in. Because I think it's an interesting conversation with Chicago, and I might make another full video on this. But Chicago with Justin Fields is what makes this draft interesting. Because at pick 1-1, not earned by their own merit, right? Earned from the trade with Carolina. There's a big question mark on what they're going to do. They could keep Justin Fields. There's really three options. They could keep Justin Fields, trade out of that first pick, and trade back to the third, let's say, and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. They could trade out of that pick and I was sorry. They could keep Justin Fields and not trade out of that pick and then draft Marvin Harrison Jr. or whoever else first overall, or they could trade Justin Fields and draft Caleb Williams first overall. A lot of different paths here, and I think this week will help determine some of that. I think if Justin Fields goes out there and balls and beats Green Bay and they end up 8-9, I think they might keep him. But if he ends up flopping, I think they're more inclined to get rid of him. At the end of the day, I don't hate either choice. I don't know a whole lot about Caleb Williams at the top of this draft, right? I've only seen him in limited play. But I'm not confident and sold in Justin Fields either way. I think his ceiling might not be an MVP, but I think his ceiling is definitely good enough to win a Super Bowl and good enough to be a franchise quarterback for years to come. I want to take a guy like Ben Roethlisberger. If we look at him, right, he was never an MVP. But could Justin Fields be Ben Roethlisberger? Not in this way he plays, but in just terms of the quality of play, or maybe Philip Rivers is a more accurate comparison. Yeah, they could get there. And so I'm going to do this mock draft today with the idea that Chicago is trading out. If Chicago's trading out, and I am Chicago, let me start with that point. I am only willing to go down in the draft as far as can get me Marvin Harrison. And for Chicago, that's probably pick three, because if they trade back to pick three, pick one and pick two are going to be quarterbacks. I don't think three quarterbacks are coming off the board. And they're certainly not letting Marvin Harrison get to Arizona's pick. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a trade with Chicago trading back and the New England Patriots getting their quarterback of the future. I don't know what the future is in New England, but I know it's certainly not Mac Jones. And I'm sure it's going to take more than just an extra first to make this deal happen. But nonetheless, we're going to trade next year's first. It's not really important. I'm not here to analyze what goes into this trade. But the Patriots certainly have a quarterback situation. Whether Bill Belichick leaves or not, I think their best option is to take a quarterback early on. And so that's what we're doing here. New England moves up to the first pick, and they take Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Get their guy for the next 15 years. Get the heir apparent to Tom Brady that should have been drafted a few years ago, but nonetheless. And that leaves Washington at pick 2. And I've said for a long time, Washington is one of the more interesting teams, in my opinion, because I just said that about Chicago. But I'm not sold. They're sold on the quarterback position, and they're certainly moving on from Ron Rivera. With new ownership in town, I'm not sure where they go from here. I'm not sure if they're sold Sam Howell's the guy. I'm not sure if they're sold that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best complement there. I'm not sure if they're sold that they should go offensive line. I'm not sure if they're sold they should go quarterback. And because of that, I think they have a unique opportunity to trade out of this pick. Do I want to have them trade out of this pick for the purpose of the draft? Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna make it happen. The Giants are a team that's also interested in trading up, and I've done a draft with them trading up, mock draft previously. So check that out. It's on the channel. So I'm gonna make this pick this trade between the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. The Giants moving up from 5 to 2, and they're division rivals. Maybe this isn't the most realistic thing in the world, but maybe that sways me a little bit. Maybe that sways me a little bit. Maybe a different team's willing to trade up. Let's see who else could trade up for a quarterback. Obviously, the Cardinals are not, the Chargers are not, the Titans are not. I don't think the Jets are. The Falcons are an interesting team. So are the Raiders. Denver could also make a move up, although they don't have a lot of draft capital, trading for Russell Wilson and for Sean Payton. I'm going to make Atlanta trade up. Today. We're going to have the Atlanta Falcons trading up. And maybe this isn't fully realistic for Washington, because I think in reality they'd rather have Um, they'd rather have one of the top playmakers, and trading back to 9 probably doesn't get that done. But we're going to make it happen. We're going to give Atlanta the quarterback of the future. Desmond Ritter's clearly not that guy. Obviously, Taylor Heineke's not that guy. I don't think Arthur Smith is long for Atlanta. You bring in a guy like Drake Maye, who's an accurate passer, who's a guy who's more mobile than people give him credit for. You bring him in to Atlanta. You give him B. John Robinson. You give him Kyle Pitts. You give him Drake London. I think that's a lot of fun. Drake Maye to Atlanta. Ironically, Drake to Drake would be a fun connection, right? Drake Maye to Drake London. We have Chicago here. Chicago likes the way this draft came out, obviously. They take Marvin Harrison Jr., no questions asked, get a big body, get a guy for Justin Fields to throw to for the next 10 years. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Arizona at pick 4 probably doesn't love Marvin Harrison Jr. going the pick before them, but nonetheless, they get a strong wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. I think they need to provide another weapon for Kyler Murray. They're clearly moving with Kyler Murray toward the future. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. The Giants, I think, are going quarterback 100% in the first round. And I've heard some debate on this, right? Depending on who's going to be available. Maybe they trade back and select a guy like Michael Penix or Bo Nix. I think they end up taking Jaden Daniels here if he's available at pick 5. And I think they're very happy with that. The Giants get their guy of the future. They let Daniel Jones play out one more year, and then they go ahead and take him out of the last 2 years of that contract. San Diego, or the LA Chargers, rather. I've had them taking Brock Bowers in several previous drafts. I could also see them going to tackle. I could also see them going an edge rusher. I don't hate any of these picks. I could also see them going a corner with either Kool-Aid McKinstry, or if we scroll down a little bit, Nate Wiggins, Cooper DeJean could also be a pick for them. But I'm gonna take Brock Bowers. This is the third mock draft in a row they're taking Brock Bowers. But I'm sorry, Chargers fans. I think you need another weapon. Tight end is definitely a position of need. We saw the best Chargers teams historically have a dominant tight end in Antonio Gates. Not to say that this Chargers regime is anything close to that, but there's a turnover at coaching. I think getting him another weapon won't hurt whatsoever. Pick 7 with Will Levis at quarterback. You want to protect the quarterback. The Titans need to protect the quarterback. As you could see on the team needs here on NFL mock draft database simulator, offensive tackle, number 1 need for them. I think this is an easy pick in terms of position. It's just a question of whether it's Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu. In my opinion, Joe Alt's the better player. I've seen very limited action and highlights, but I think that's where they end up going. And that leaves my New York Jets. I would love this. I would love this to be able to protect Aaron Rodgers' blind side with Olu Fashanu. Just plug him right into the left tackle spot, and you swap. I'm assuming they're going to move on from Laken Tomlinson next year. You swap AVT over Elijah Vera Tucker over to left guard, and that's your left side of the line for years to come. Joe Tippmann in center. You really got 3/5 of the offensive line figured out with young players. Okay, we get to Washington, and I think this is an interesting pick. Obviously tackles high on their board. Not a lot of tackles near the top of the board here. JC Latham. I've seen Amerigus Mims go higher than him in other mock drafts. Fuaga as well for Morgan State go pretty high, but I don't think that's where they end up going given these options. They traded away a lot of pass rushers. I could see them going Dallas Turner. I could also see them grabbing a wide receiver, but I'm going to say that they end up going Dallas Turner here. And Chicago, in a similar vein, I could see them taking a pass rusher. They got a wide receiver. They helped something on the offense. I think an edge rusher in Latu here from UCLA would make a lot of sense for them. And they get 2 franchise cornerstones in their top 10 picks. And they also get a pick next year to continue to build around Justin Fields. Las Vegas Raiders. I have trouble knowing where this team is going to go. Like I said, I could see them taking a quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if they're in the Michael Penix race here. But I'm not going to have them here. They certainly need help in the defensive backfield. Kool-Aid McKinstry makes sense for them. If they're trading Devontae Adams, I could see them taking a guy like Roma Dunze, but I'll give them Kool-Aid McKinstry here. I think that's a great fit with Antonio Pierce in that defense. Minnesota. Minnesota's a fun team to forecast because their team needs quarterback, but I think they bring back Kirk Cousins. I don't think they're going to be in this quarterback market. That's just my opinion. I think they need help on several levels of the defense, including edge rusher, including corner, including defensive linemen, including linebackers. Really, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a linebacker as well. I think the best defender available here is Jared Verse. I don't think they're going to get Cooper DeJean, but I I think Nate Wiggins could be in the cards if this was their pick, but I'm going to say Jared Verse ends up going to them. New Orleans comes in, and I think New Orleans doesn't love that pick. They were probably hoping for Jared Verse to fall to them with one of their main needs being edge rusher. At least one of their top needs is wide receiver. That kind of surprises me a little bit. Chris Olave's had a nice breakout. Raheed Shaheed has been a decent player for them. Obviously, Michael Thomas is not long for there. I could honestly see it. I could also see an offensive tackle here. And given the situation, you know what? I'm gonna give Derek Carr another weapon. I'm gonna give him Rome Odunze, an elite weapon to pair with Olave and to have along with Alvin Kamara. They also got Taysom Hill as a wild card on that roster. I like that a lot for their offense. Denver, 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 Denver. One of the more fun situations here. I'm going to have Denver drafting a quarterback, and I know it doesn't list quarterback on their high on their needs, but I don't see where they're going at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson is going to end up leaving in the offseason. I have no doubt about it. He's going to get cut. So Michael Penix, you are a Denver Bronco. I think he fits in well with Sean Payton. I think you could see little elements of him compared to Drew Brees, right? I tell me I'm not the only one. And seeing that was it the Sugar Bowl or the Rose Bowl? I always mix them up. It was the Rose Bowl. No, it was the Sugar Bowl. What am I saying? Rose Bowl was Michigan and Alabama. In that Sugar Bowl game, you could see it. You could see the elite. I mean, ball was on a rope that game. So the Denver Broncos get the quarterback of the future. I think they're happy with that pick. Seattle Seahawks at pick 15. I could see them going to defensive lineman. I don't think they go corner. I don't think they go offensive line. So Georgia Newton makes a lot of sense. I think that's where they'll go if these players are available. For the Bengals, the position is easy. Just as a question of who it is. They're going to take a tackle. I'd bet $1 million to take a tackle. I wouldn't bet $1 million because I don't have $1 million to lose. I'd bet $5 that they're going to take an offensive tackle. It's a question of whether it's J.C. Latham here or Amarius Mims. I doubt they're going to drop farther than that. I mean, I think Fuaga's a better player than this ranking system gives him credit for. But I do think they end up taking J.C. Latham. I think he could go significantly higher than this. I wouldn't be surprised if my New York Jets take him in the top 10 if Olu Fashanu wasn't there at that pick. But I like that pick for them. You got to protect Joe Burrow. And they've done a remarkably poor job at that for the amount of resources they've invested. Arizona at pick 17. They already got a wide receiver to help out the offense. They're going to go after a defensive player. I could see Nate Wiggins or Cooper DeJean. I'll give him Nate Wiggins here, who I think slid a little bit. And I think it just gives them another defensive weapon. Their secondary is a mess this year. And we helped out the offense a little bit. Time to help out the defense. Pick 18 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there's a team to draft Cooper DeJean, I could see it being the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stays in the black and gold, moving from Iowa to Pittsburgh. And if we're all serious, if there's a team to draft the first white corner in 50 years, Pittsburgh Steelers are not a shocking team to do that. Green Bay, no comment, by the way, no further comments. Green Bay at pick 19 needs an offensive tackle for sure. I could see them going to Marius Mims here. Also needs at corner. Their secondary needs help. Where do I go here? I'm going to say they go offensive tackle. I've had them drafting Kool-Aid McKinstry in previous drafts. I'm going to say they go tackle. They take a guy in Amarius Mims to build around and provide Jordan Love more protection up front. Tampa Bay here needs an edge rusher, needs a wide receiver, especially if Mike Evans leaves in free agency. And if we assume Mike Evans does, I like Keon Coleman there. I've had him in a previous mock draft as well. I think it makes a lot of sense. Indianapolis at pick 21. I think they go wide receiver here. I could see them going a defensive impact player, but given the options here, Braylon Trice makes a lot of sense for them, though. You know what? I changed my mind. I think they're going Braylon Trice here. I think him as an option there. Shane Steichen, I think, is really developing this team and getting the top end talent there. And I think Braylon Trice has the best potential of the guys available here. I like that a lot for Indianapolis. Jacksonville's a fun team. I think they end up taking a corner. I know that they list wide receiver as a need, possibly because Calvin Ridley didn't turn into the player they wanted him to be this year and the player they traded for. I think if we give it another season, he might develop a little bit more and get used to Trevor Lawrence, but that offense never seemed to click this year. I think they end up going defense. I think a corner makes a lot of sense for them. Terrion Arnold. Really played quite well in the aforementioned Rose Bowl. I think he's going to end up being the pick here. For the Rams at pick 23, needs all over the defense. Robinson here from Penn State, I think, is the best player available. I could see them going to tackle, but I don't think they're going to invest in the offense. I think Robinson makes a lot of sense. Buffalo. Now, if there's a team to take wide receiver, I think Brian Thomas Jr. could be a guy for Buffalo. We're seeing some dissension between Stephon Diggs and the Bills, and he really faded off toward the end of the year. I'd be curious to see. I mean, if they lose this week and other games break right, they could be out of the playoffs, which means they could be moving on from head coach Sean McDermott. In the same vein, if they win, they could be the 2 seed, right? So I think it largely depends on what happens from here on out. And if Stephon Diggs is on the move, if Stephon Diggs can't be fully relied on to be wide receiver one, I could see them bringing in some more talent. Brian Thomas Jr., I think, makes sense for them. Kansas City, similarly, I mean, needs wide receiver talent. It's no secret, right? Um, the best receiver on that team is Kadarius Toney, and I think he profiles as at best a wide receiver two, at the very best. In reality, more like a wide receiver three or wide receiver four. They're going wide receiver. The question is who? Igbuka's sitting here. I think he's the best talent, although Adonai Mitchell would be a great pick for them. I'm going to pick Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell here. Go to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's not a pick I've had recently in any mock drafts. Philadelphia pick 26. I could see them going wide receiver. Julio Jones has been playing a little bit more than I think they would have wanted. I could see them going corner to help out with that secondary. Could also see them going safety. You know what? I'm gonna have them taking a corner. I like Lassiter out of Georgia. I think that just adds another weapon to their defense. They've been known to like defensive players from Georgia or players from Georgia in general, right? DeAndre Swift, Jalen Carter, yes. N'Kobe Dean. We go on and on. There's half a dozen for Philly. Add another one to the list. Continue the the meme. Detroit at pick 27. Part of me really wants to take Bo Nix here. Part of me really, 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 really wants to take Bo Nix here. Eesh. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Bo Nix. Detroit gets the quarterback of the future. I think Jared Goff has played very well for them. Listen, he's been more than what they could have asked for in return for Matthew Stafford. But at the end of the day, he's not the future, clearly. He's not the guy who's going to take them to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl. And I think that's what they're looking for with the talent they have and with the coaching they have. And Bo Nix could develop into that guy. I think I've convinced myself that that's a good pick. Houston at pick 28, certainly not going quarterback. I could see them adding another weapon. Egbuka, I mean, with him, with Nico Collins, with Tank Dell, oof, that offense would look elite. I can't resist. I love it. Miami pick 29. Offensive tackle certainly seems like a smart move for them, although any offensive line position would be a great move for them, considering the injuries and performance this year of their line. Fuaga makes a lot of sense for them. He's slid a little bit in this draft. I like that pick. I think Dolphins fans like that pick too. Dallas is an interesting team. I could see them going corner to replace Stephon Gilmore, probably leaving after this year, perhaps retiring after this year. I could see them going Kalen King here because of that. I could also see them drafting an offensive lineman. I don't know where I feel is the best solution here. Give me Kalen King. Let's give him a corner. They've already got Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. Give him another corner. One of them can move to the slot. I think that makes a lot of sense. Teams run three corners now, basically every play. Pick 31 for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's get an offensive tackle to pair alongside with Trent Williams. I always butcher this guy's name. I'm sorry. Troy Fautanu. Definitely ruined that. I'm interested to see how he performs with the Michigan defensive front in the college football championship. But nonetheless, I think that's a great pick for San Francisco. And we get to Baltimore. I could see Baltimore adding another weapon. I could see them adding a pass rusher. I could see them adding to that defensive backfield. I don't know where they go. Odell Beckham, I think it's not long for Baltimore. I don't know if he's going to be gone this year or the next. So I'm going to get them a wide receiver. I'm going to get them a wide receiver. I like that pick. I like that pick out of South Carolina. I also butcher his name all the time. Leggett. Nonetheless, I like that pick for them. So we had two big trades. We had Chicago trading from pick 1 to pick 3. And then Washington trading from pick 9 to pick 2. Of course, for the Patriots to take Caleb Williams and the Falcons to take Drake May. Chicago ends up with Marvin Williamson and Latu, the pass rusher from UCLA, to build around Justin Fields. The Jets end up getting a tackle. Jaden Daniels goes to the Giants. I like this draft a lot. The Broncos get their quarterback of the future. So do the Detroit Lions. The Bills and Chiefs get wide receivers for the future. So do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this draft was a lot of fun. The Texans offense becomes even more potent. Several teams get important offensive linemen, including Miami and San Francisco. I like this mock draft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Where did you done differently? Do you think Washington trades out of this pick? In retrospect, if they know Dallas Turner's who they end up with, maybe they don't trade that far back. Maybe they move up to trade, back up to grab a guy like Joe Walt. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this draft worked out like you thought it would? Where would you have done differently? Let me know. Thank you for watching this Quick Thoughts episode. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.